Welcome to your Magical Life podcast,
a sacred space to explore, create, and manifest more magic into your daily life.
I'm Crystal, homeschool mom to 2 wildlings and lover of all things witchy and magical.
And I'm Ash, your resident art witch and priestess, helping you trust your intuition through art and divination.
Hey Ash, how are you? It has been a while.
It has. I'm doing really good though. Life has been wild, but kids are back in school. Days are getting somewhat cooler, and I've spent more time outside since it's comfortable. So, how are you doing?
That's awesome. I am doing well at this moment. It has been a crazy last few months for me as well. My mom was in the hospital, so I was dealing with a lot of that. And the kids, we homeschool. So we also transition slowly into doing more learning, although I don't think our learning ever stopped in the summer. So it just kind of became a little bit more structured as we started adding in some classes and stuff like that. But really, the kids kind of took the reins on when we started. It was so random. It was at the start of school time that Dylan randomly woke up and said, I have a story in my head. I want to sit down and write it. Can I get on the laptop? And I was like, sure. Guess we're doing writing today. And Piper became super interested in the calendar. So I guess we're starting kindergarten.
That's awesome. That's really cool that they just know or just like have that choice or that sense to just learn something new. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I am definitely feeling the shift in seasons as well. It is getting cooler here a bit. We haven't been in the swimming pool in like a whole week now. And we had some foggy mornings, which is kind of nice. And we are coming up on another Sabbath, which is, well, let's talk about the pronunciation here. So I've always heard it called Mabon, which is the fall equinox, autumn equinox here in the northern hemisphere. But I was informed that there is a more traditional, better pronunciation. So can you help us out with that, Ash?
Yeah, so it's pronounced Mabon. So,
Ma
yeah, we were watching a video earlier that went into that it's pronounced like ma, like ma, like hey ma, and
right.
then
Right. Or like I
bon.
heard, okay. So like, was it like the word cab? Because I thought it was like mab
Yeah.
on.
Well,
So like
Mabon.
Mabon. Because Mab is actually a Welsh god, is that right?
hmm Well, Mabon
Okay.
is the Welsh god.
Oh,
Yes.
Mabon, the whole
Yeah.
name is the Welsh god. Okay,
Yes.
that's so
Yes.
interesting. And so this it falls on the wheel of the year, of course, as across from the spring equinox, which is what the southern hemisphere is celebrating right now. So
Yeah.
this is that equal day, equal night, and equinox there.
hmm Yeah, and calling it Mabon is one of the more recent titles in the like 1970s or so. It's always been the equinox because it's always been that point of equal day and night. It's just the newer age paganism that has, and Wiccan and witchcraft and such, that's taken on the title Mabon. But Mabon is still a god, like in the Welsh culture. It's just taken on that title now. So depends on how you feel about it or like how you relate to it, I guess. So if you call it the fall equinox or if you go with Mabon.
That is so interesting, and I'm so glad that you clarified that because, yeah, Mabon is not something that I've generally practiced or knew about until I recently got into more witchy things. But the fall equinox, the summer solstice, like those have always felt very significant to me as well. So I think that's so interesting that it's more of a recent phenomenon. You said in the 70s. That's when the whole wheel of the year was made. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, like every culture has always had their Sabbats or their rituals throughout the year, but it was more solidified, more like equaled out, like a few extra things added in to like space them out evenly. The
That
70s
symmetry.
when yeah, when Wicca became more prominent or like neo-paganism became more prominent. But these equinoxes and solstices, like, I mean, this is literally how the earth works. So those have always been things that have been there forever. In some celebration, it's just titles change or like rituals get added in or altered or however that works over time.
That makes sense, that makes sense. And so this year, the equinox or Mabon falls on September 23rd. Sometimes, some years it falls on the 21st. I think it's somewhere between that. So this one actually changes a little bit, although I'm sure in many like we've been talking about different cultures who have always observed this. I would imagine it likely has to do with the moon cycles, which often it does. And this year, for example, the next full moon, which is September 29th, I believe. So,
Mm,
not long after the equinox, the full moon is the Mid Autumn Festival for many Asian cultures. It's like a big
mm.
thing in China. That's when they make moon cakes, and it's all about the moon. And so I think I would imagine that maybe that date, the Gregorian calendar, the 23rd, maybe shifted and it might have something more to do with the full moon at the end of the month.
Yeah, that very well. I'm not sure on that because I woke up this morning thinking, "Hey, it's fall, it's the equinox, it's Mabon," and then my daughter was like, "No, I thought it was Saturday," and then I looked it up. I'm like, "You're right, it actually is Saturday."
My son did the same thing to me. I assumed it was the 21st today, and I was like, "Oh gosh, how cool that Ash and I can get together on the actual day." And then I was like, "Oh, it's," he said, "It's not my calendar." And I love that our kids are so in tune with the moon and the, Sabbats even more than we are.
Yeah, just a
That's
couple of
great.
bad witches that have no idea what we're doing. That's okay.
It's okay, but again, the date isn't important, the exact date,
Yeah,
as we've been talking about through all of our episodes. You do it when it feels right to you. You're never gonna be in a good place to do a ritual if you're rushed because you're like, "Oh, the calendar says it's this date. I only have this amount of time to do my magic." Like, no, embrace when it's good for your life as well.
yeah,
Especially one this one is very a happy Sabbath. Not that any of them aren't really happy, but I feel like this is one about gratitude. Some people call it the witch's Thanksgiving, which I thought was kind of interesting. And it's all about gratitude, balance, and preparing really for the darker months ahead.
see, I was gonna say that this is the Sabbath of death, but that's okay.
Oh, happy death. Okay.
No, it's when the leaves are starting to turn and fall off the trees and things are starting to slow down and getting closer to like the hibernation. And I mean death isn't like the death tarot card of like
Right.
some things ending so that other
Mhm.
things next year can come
Right.
back.
Right. I mean, that's true. That's true. I mean, all things must go through that process, the death process. Death is inevitable. Change is always, you know what I mean? So, absolutely. But that is kind of funny that I was like, oh, happy. And you're like, death. That's great. That's great.
That works perfectly for our personalities.
It really fits well. And what's so funny though, because when I think death, I think of Samhain, Halloween, you know what I mean? And
That
like
too.
Day of the Dead.
Yes.
So the next one, I'm like, we're almost dead. We're still giving thanks and we're not quite dead yet. But the decaying and the signs of the turning towards darkness are definitely there around. Oh, this is so hilarious.
This is what happens when we don't have regular weekly conversations. I end up laughing hysterically.
Well, me too. I mean, it's I've missed you. I've missed this. It's just been so busy, but I do hope that and we just didn't want to let any Sabbats go by. So for this last couple, it's just been every Sabbath rather than getting back into our weekly just witchy talks, which I miss as well. But I'm hoping
Do.
maybe with the slowing down of the season as life does, hopefully we get into a rhythm and we can get back on regularly.
Yes, that would be amazing, and with the schedule evening out for me, my work day is even more open for clients, for chats with friends, for podcasting, all of it. So,
I love it, I love it. I am so excited. You're working on a new, website design for me. I don't know if anybody knows, but Ash has Cosmic Library Designs, and she is amazing. It's amazing, so definitely check out the link in the bio. I think it's or the show notes or wherever we have our website, and you have ways that you can connect with Ash or connect with me if you need a tarot reading or whatever else, and you can also check out my new pretty website.
very
So,
soon. It'll
um
be awesome.
yes, yes, and while we're talking about the website, do click in the website because we have an amazing free download for you, The Wheel
Mhm.
of the Year, Ash, our amazing resident
Yeah,
art witch. Oh, and you have it handy. Well,
I
I don't know if we're
do.
gonna put this on video, but we'll put it in a post,
Ah,
another post
that's
too,
okay.
that has well, they could just download it. Just click, it's
Yes.
free, get the download, print it out yourself. You can color it, you can paint it, you can print it on watercolor paper even. And then I love what Ash has done by cutting it out and putting it in her grimoire, her book of shadows. And then every Sabbath, she has a place to journal what she did. I mean, it's just brilliant. I love it.
Yes, we'll have that. And we also talked about sharing some card spreads. So we're all about the divination. So maybe we'll throw in a card spread you can do that goes into what needs to die out so that you can be grateful for what you do have and
That's
so that
right.
you can cultivate other things in coming months as well.
I love it. I love it. And since we were talking about Samhain for a second there, I wanted to bring up because that's the next Sabbath, October 31st, and the last Sabbath, Lunasa, that we talked about. These are the three harvest festivals. So there's three. So this is the second of the three harvest festivals. And at the beginning was the first cut of the wheat, the very beginning. This season, I feel like we're more about getting the harvest. Right now is a big harvest season. If you go to any of the farms, the pumpkins, the gourds, the many things that are that indicative of this fall season, those are available right now. Apples, that's another big
Hmm.
thing. And these are also symbols that you can then decorate your altar with. So I think it's a wonderful way to just welcome in this new season, honor it energetically, whether you celebrate Mabon, you do extra rituals with that or not. You can still put up some fall decorations and honor the season simply if that's what calls to you. Or, of course, you can up the magical ante and you can make a simmer pot, putting in those different ingredients. And I have an awesome little recipe, although you can do whatever you wanna put in your simmer pot, but I love maybe that's something else we'll put in our notes, we'll see. But, there's oranges, apples, and if you cut the apples, not the normal way you cut apples, but lengthwise, it makes a star with the seeds, that five-pointed pentacle star, which and then they look like coins as well. So you can bring in more abundance and wealth that way and prosperity. Also, I feel like apples are good for health. Throw in some rosemary for protection, cinnamon, of course, for abundance, rose petals for love, lavender for peace, and oranges are also a really great thing to make your house smell good and also to bring in that the sunshine that
Mm.
we're kind of at this point starting to lose. So I think remembering to bring in that light as well
Yeah,
is so fun.
it is. I was going to talk about the apples too, because that would be a good one for your altar, or you can also make it into like a print. So like you do the cutting of the apple so that you can see your pentagram in the middle of your apple. Paint it, stamp it on things. So that would
I
be
love
a
that.
fun activity for protection and for release and just a fun creative thing for any age.
I love that. I am definitely going to do that. And if you can go apple picking or harvesting, whether it be in your garden or a nearby farm, I think it's so wonderful because you could then bring it back and, like a kind of Thanksgiving, share that, be grateful for your blessings and your abundance, and then share your gratitude with friends and family as well in some type of potluck
Yeah.
or celebration,
Yeah.
bonfire.
I'm gonna go to a Fall Equinox Fest this Saturday, and so they're collecting food donations for the food shelf. So there are a lot of places doing things like
Oh,
that, and they're not necessarily connected with anything witchy or pagan, but like it's still that time of year that regardless of what you believe in or celebrate, like it's that time of year to be
absolutely.
collecting those and to give that food to people who need it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think that you had mentioned with the apples and stuff being good for the altar and different, maybe creative things. Some other items that might be good are acorns, pine cones that you find around, and they're so significant, or dried flowers. I know you had posted a video of your dried flowers, and I really loved your technique of just putting them in salt. I actually tried it with my clovers, and it preserves them so well. So, kind of an option to pressing flowers, if you wanna keep them 3D, you can put them in under salt, and it kind of dehydrates them or something.
Yeah, I've been trying to press flowers throughout the summer to put in resin, and they always came out looking shriveled and like colorless. So I was like, I'm not gonna waste resin on these things. So I was looking for other ways of drying it because you can't put something wet into or something living into the resin, it won't work properly. So I found a couple people talking about salt, and I was like, well, salt dries things out, so I'll try it. And it worked pretty well, and I've
I think it's so great.
it did work
Um,
really well. Like I still have some flowers sitting on my desk that I haven't done anything with, and like they're still like vibrant, like colorful and
wow,
everything, and like
that's
they
amazing.
haven't shriveled up at all.
Yeah, they've
Yeah,
kept their structures, which is
they
so
have.
cool for it to be 3D because a lot of your art, like
Exactly.
with the resin, is 3D, not just a flat printed page. So
Yeah.
that is really neat. And so whether you do something creatively or on your altar, I think really this day, this Sabbath is all about finding balance and that light and dark. And not that summer is so fun and light and bright as we were doing the summer solstice, but that appreciation, like you were saying, that we do have to let go. We have to let things decay in order to make room for more light. You can't just build on the light, peace, love, happiness all the time. You know what I mean? So, like, you have to appreciate that within us all, within the world that we live in, within the seasons themselves, it's not always positive and light, that there is darkness and shadow, and it's not bad. Like we're like, oh, death. And like, death is not a bad thing. It's just and it's the flip side of the coin of life.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know about for you out there, but for us here, the leaves are changing colors. They'll fall off the trees. They'll decay into soil eventually, and then new leaves will grow. And that's just part of it. I mean, like, if they didn't fall off the trees ever, then they wouldn't be going into the soil or like making giving little homes to tiny creatures or anything like that. And you wouldn't have like the new growth or the tree wouldn't be growing.
So
It would just be
true.
stuck.
Stuck, stagnant, no growth. You might not be
Yeah,
super happy or super whatever, but like in order to have the growth, you have to have those times, which is hard, but
yeah, it
that's
is.
how it is. And so it's so funny when we started this podcast, we started it on the spring equinox on Ostara. And we had a whole conversation about like, I'm like, this is the beginning of the new year. And you're like, no, the witches begin the new year at Samhain. And so I find this an interesting point because this is actually just 6 months. We've been since start to finish. It's a half a year. And at the beginning, we were very consistent. And then the summer into fall, we've dropped off to just Sabbaths. Either way, like there's a reflection, there's a growth pattern, and the seasons, like we've been respecting our needs and our inner season and the season of our whole podcast as well. And so I think we're going to see the activity, the amount of effort and time we can put into it, and then it may wane and wax, and just like the moon. And so I thought it was just kind of significant that whether you begin the year at spring equinox or Samhain, this is a good halfway point to reflect on the past 6 to 12-month cycle.
Yeah, I mean it's always good to reflect, and I think one of the good things that I guess they updated or created the wheel of the year. It's like you have all of these regular time periods of reflection to make changes to start again, because otherwise it would just be one time a year at what everyone else does, the New Year's Day thing. And if we were only ever reflecting that one day of the year, like we wouldn't get anywhere or as
Yeah,
far.
I agree. I agree. It just gives multiple times to reflect, reevaluate, and pivot and go another
Yeah,
direction or see what's working, let go of what's not. And I feel like, yeah, people who are spiritually inclined, like the time of the year, the wheel of the year gives us this. And also, if you even like zoom in more, every moon cycle gives us that, as we've talked about in our moon cycles, that full moon to new moon shift in whether we are planting new seeds or reflecting on how well and celebrating things that have gone well, and then releasing things that haven't to prepare ourselves for the next moon cycle or the next season or the next year. I mean, it's all a huge wheel within a wheel, I guess.
that's also very true. That just
Yeah.
brings us back to the natural cycle of everything, gets us a reminder to get back to the earth because there's so many other things out there telling us to not be in connection with the earth. So having this witchcraft practice or this pagan practice or whatever you consider it just keeps bringing us back to the earth and to human connection.
I agree. And like you said, just looking outside at the earth, at the leaves, it reminds us to do that work inwardly as well. And even just like decluttering and cleansing your home physically or energetically, letting go of things. I've been in a big purge mode recently and I didn't really realize till I was kind of researching this. I'm like, oh, this is good. Letting go. The leaves are falling. We're brushing, sweeping them out the door and making room for the new that will come in.
Yeah, my office could use a little bit more of that. So maybe that's what I'll be doing Saturday too.
Some other little simple ways to bring in the season, and I think, again, we do this naturally. You'll see people who are not witches or pagans decorating their house with pumpkins and gourds as well. But the colors of this season, the oranges, reds, yellows, brown, gold, copper, all of those warm colors. And you could use them to create your art. You could use them to decorate your house. You could use them to wear. And all of that just brings in that feeling. And if you make a conscious effort to do that in honor or in celebration of the shift in seasons, I think that's nice. There's also some
Mm,
crystal associations which kind of go along with those colors. I think if you pick a
mm.
crystal in any of those colors, you'd probably be pretty safe. So copper itself, citrine, which is again for wealth and abundance as well, but it's that yellow. Make sure that you're not getting heat treated amethyst though, because I've seen a lot of fakes going around. It's different. It's different. So be sure you're sourcing your crystals from a reputable place.
For
Amber
sure.
is another one. And I think amber is so cool. It's got so many properties. And my son is actually, or maybe it was my daughter, I forget who, the last time we were at the crystal store, picked out a few pieces. And I'd never really had any when I brought it back. I was like, wow, we had never really chosen amber, but how there's so many properties to it. I know actually babies use those, like some babies, the healing, the amber teething necklaces, although I'm not, endorsing or so some people think they're choking hazards. So I'm not gonna say one way or another. Like, but I do think that it's that there's not a doubt in my mind that it works, like that the amber itself, you know what I mean? Or that crystals can provide some healing properties as well. And that insects get stuck in it and that they were at the time of the dinosaurs. Like there's just a whole lot of layers to amber that fascinate me.
It is a very cool thing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And tiger's eye is a good one.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That's courage too. Like it takes courage to be able to let
Yeah,
go of some things.
that's true.
So cool. Well, I think that's about it. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we covered so much. I am looking forward to a fun day on Saturday with my kids to just kind of embrace the season. I'm not going to make anything like super strict, like, okay, we must do this, we must learn about this. But I think just really embracing the day, doing some of the things we did. I do want to clear my altar and start a new one. We'll probably
Mm.
do a simmer pot, maybe a little candle magic. If you've got an orange candle, that would be good. I've seen a beautiful ritual recently where you set your candle and you can put some herbs around the outside, salt for protection, lavender, rosemary, and then you take a bay leaf, and we all know about bay leaf rituals, but instead of writing like your intentions this time, we write what we're grateful for. And just focusing on gratitude. And then I've seen people take the bay leaf and wrap it on the candle with twine. And I really like that they put it there and then they light the candle and it burns down and then it sets the bay leaf on fire with the twine. And I think it's just kind
That's
of a
really
neat
cool.
little ritual. So I think I'm going to try that as well.
Yeah. I need to go find an orange candle.
I know. Yellow would also work, and you know what? I think white candles are really kind of the generic will work,
Yeah.
or maybe you have some herbs like saffron or something like that, or even yellow dandelions that you could rub on it, or you could paint the candle. Can you paint candles?
I don't know. I feel like that would be a nauseous smelling candle.
That's true. Oh, when you burn it, that's a good point. That's a
Yes.
good point. Maybe natural dyeing would be better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this was so great to catch up,
Yes.
Ash.
It was absolutely fantastic. So glad we were able to do this. And for all of our listeners, check show notes for all the fun stuff, all the other fun stuff after you stop listening. And we'll be back for the next Sabbath at the very least, if not
That's right.
more episodes. We'll see.
Yeah. No commitments, but we are being open to guidance from the universe and from our lives and from the natural seasons as well. We're just kind of taking it day by day, minute by minute, as I think we all should in our lives. You know what I mean? You don't have to pigeonhole yourself and get on yourself and upset if you can't make goals, meet goals. I think enjoying life and being present for our families and things like that is so important. And that is the beauty of kind of the path we've chosen, I think, to be able to do this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Your Magical Life. We hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment and let us know what you liked and what you'd like to see more of.
We love hearing from our listeners and featuring your most requested topics in our Q&A section. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and don't forget to check the show notes for bonus content.
Send us your stories, questions, and comments to magicallifepod@gmail.com.
And we'll see you next time as we continue to explore, create, and manifest more magic into our daily lives.
Until then, I'm Crystal.
And I'm Ash. Take care and keep making magic.